How's it going, guys? Scotty here. Last night I got into a little bit of a thing here with this air impact gun. Got a lot of parts hanging around here. This I've had for years. This is a cheapo Princess Auto air impact gun that I got, oh god, I'd say at least 15 years ago. And when I bought it, it was super cheap. I mean, I think I paid like 39 bucks for this thing, which is amazing because I mean, it's an all aluminum body. Yeah, it's fairly decently made. Done a lot of great work with this over the years, so it has lasted a good amount of time. Started to lose power recently, maybe a couple years ago, and I asked for a new impact gun for Christmas. My parents got me this bad boy right here. Boy, is that ever a nice tool. That it's just a beautiful tool, and so I've been using this, and that has just been wonderful. But I thought, you know, because I had this guy hanging out, I didn't really want to throw it out, so I decided to tear it open. I've always been interested to try and know how these air motors work. It's kind of fascinating stuff. All these air tools are, I remember when I first discovered air tools, being quite enamored with how they work, and I never really understood it. So I decided we'd tear it open and try and figure this out. I'm really glad I did, because learned a lot of good stuff here. So the purpose of this video is basically just to go over air motors and impact guns, or I should say air vane motors. These are the little vanes. Because the operation of these things is pretty cool. And we're going to try and put this back together. I think I know why it was losing power. This gasket was loose. These fasteners that hold the sandwich this gasket and seal the air was kind of loose, so maybe that had something to do with it, and didn't seem to be super well lubricated. Sort of closer look at some of these parts. This is the air vane cylinder. These holes in the top here are where the exhaust comes out. You'll see it's quite interesting how this is mounted in the air gun. These are these little air galleys here for forward and reverse. We'll talk about the air hammer, the hammer and anvil part of it as well. But this actually sits sort of like offset in here. Centrifugal. There's a few things that pops those vanes out. One is a centrifugal force as it's spinning around in here. The other is well, what we'll see here on the back plate of this piece that goes like that. Or no, this is the front. Okay, so this is the back. There's these two little kidney-shaped air galleys here, forward and reverse. And then the air comes into either one of these little kidney-shaped air passages. Actually blows on the bottom of where these vanes sit, which have a little half moon shape. Go in here. These are not metal, by the way. These are plastic. I don't know. It's some kind of a composite material. Kind of blows on this, and then it forces the vane outwards, like pops it out like that. And then once the first few are popped out and it turns, then the centrifugal forces sort of keep the vanes popping out as this turns in here. And it's a direct drive mechanism, so there's no gear reduction in this at all. This is hooked directly, splines directly to the air hammer, right like that. So when the air motor's turning, it's directly turning this air hammer here, which is pretty interesting. An electronic impact driver and stuff, there's all these gear reduction because you're using DC brushless motors. That's the one good. The thing about air tools is that you can overload them, over torque them, and stall the air motor, and you'll cause absolutely no damage to the tool. Whereas electronic tools, you know, you stall the motor, overload it, and you're going to damage the tool. So that's another good thing about these air tools. Also, there's no sparks involved here, so that's why they're used primarily in auto mechanic shops. I mean, you could use this underneath a car with all kinds of volatile fumes and chemicals, and you don't run the risk of setting anything afire, blowing anything up. So a couple really good advantages of air tools. Also, the power density of an air tool is much higher than an electric tool. You get a lot more power out of this air vane motor than you do an electric motor. So it's smaller but more powerful. Very interesting. The compressed air just directly blows onto this and these little vanes, and the sound that you hear is through these two holes here. The exhaust, it's pretty loud, but the exhaust is sort of dampened through the body of the air gun. Comes out through these two front holes here. I mean, every impact gun is designed differently. So it's sort of a little bit of a muffler system in there, but still pretty loud. Let's see if we can go through this and put this guy back together. So first of all, let's have a look at where the air comes in, right here. So we see we've got some threads, and if you look carefully, there's a sort of a seat down in there, and that goes to the trigger. In there we have this piece here, this sort of valve stem piece, which goes down inside there and connects to the trigger. So you can see that moving up and down. Very simple mechanism there. And that little pusher rod, whatever you want to call it, pushes on this check ball, which has a rubber seat that fits the check ball, and that goes in here like that. That's what we'll put the rubber thing in first, maybe. Alright, then we got the check ball. Goes in there like that. Essentially, you just got like a little valve in there now. Then you got this little spring here. I believe which way would that go? Maybe like this. This is the valve retainer thing, and then your air connection would screw right onto this fitting here. But and there's a little bit of that should probably be cleaned. But anyways, a little bit of a filter there, or just to keep debris from piling up. I think maybe the spring goes this way. Yeah, I think probably that way. And that goes in here like that, keeps the ball. I probably have to put the camera down to put this on. But alright, let's get into putting this thing back together here. Alright, here we go. I think so we've got our little ball in there, spring, and see now as I'm pushing this spring in. It's moving this check ball. Okay, so we'll screw this in. That's how that valve works. Just grab a wrench here. I maybe should have put some thread locker on that, but anyhow. Alright. I'm going to put this on the ground here 1 second. Tighten that up. Alright, now that we've got this valve retainer in there, oh, kind of cleaned out the debris there. We've got a working trigger. It's interesting to know what it's doing. It's just pushing that little check ball up and down. Next thing we have, well, let's have a look here. The air goes up through the handle, the body of the handle, and comes into this hole here, and it's really hard to see on camera, but there are some little tiny passageways in there. I wonder if I can get those on camera. There's a good shot right there. Looks like there might be some dirt in there or something, but it's hard to see. What, anyways, so you got to see some air channels in there. And then you've got this sort of piston looking thing. This is interesting because you can see it's got this beveled little piece here. This is your forward and reverse. You've got this tiny little spring attached to this thing here, and when you put it in forward or reverse, what you're actually doing is moving this little pin past this beveled part here, which switches it to forward or reverse, and this kind of moving in the airgun body to block off or provide a passage for forward or reverse. So that goes in here, goes in here just like that. So we've got forward and reverse now, so we'll just, you see here is where this little mechanism goes with the spring. Actually, that piece was falling out, and that's another reason why I thought this thing was broken. But oh, see, I screwed this up now. Okay. Put this little piece down in here, spring in. We'll put the set screw, little set screw, put that in. Tighten that down, and we've got forward and reverse without this. Okay, so now we've got forward and reverse. We will put the air actually comes through these little channels here. So on its way out, there's two channels where the forward and reverse piston is. It comes out of the body in those two holes there. So that's the exhaust. And then it just has this little piece like that that sort of redirects the air upward so that I guess it's not sort of blowing on whatever part you're working on, I guess. Alright, so we got a trigger now, we got a working trigger, we got this forward and reverse installed, and we've got this little sort of muffler thing here. Let's have a look at this hammer mechanism. We'll put some grease. There was some grease down in there. This hammer thing really literally just turns inside the body, the whole thing. So there's actually just there's an oil galley right here, and that is directly lubricating the sides of this hammer, which is just spinning against the body of the impact wrench, which is interesting, an interesting design. I would have thought there would be like a bearing there or something, but it doesn't even seem to be a thrust bearing or anything like that. It's literally just sitting there. This part is pretty interesting in and of itself. Like I said, it's got a spline here that directly splines onto the air motor, and this anvil part here just goes right in. As you can see, here's where your sockets go, and this piece, there's a sort of a dog clutch here, and some little anvil sides, and this clutch thing goes back and forth and kind of just catches these anvil sides. It's an interesting part. This is all really hardened steel, hard stuff, and I'm amazed after all these years that this surface here it's not even really damaged. Still pretty good. So it's amazing that this must be really tough steel. So anyways, this whole thing here spins, and then as you can see, it catches whichever way it happens to be going. Every now and then catches onto those anvil pieces there. It's very interesting. I'm not sure what type of design this is called, but that's how that works. So definitely a interesting design. Let's put some grease down inside there, and then some oil. I just used some of this 3-in-1 oil just to sort of as assembly lube. I got some grease down in there now, as well as some oil lubricating the sides of the body. I'll put this down in there. Okay, that slides in just like that. Set that all the way in. That's all the way in. There we go. That's all the way in. Put this on. It's just this rubber boot. There we are. Got the hammer installed in there. Now, if I remember correctly, this part seals off this chamber. All the air stuff happens here. Interesting. Yeah, which means the air motor kind of comes through here. I see. The air motor comes through here. It's sort of spins around like that, so it probably should have lubrication here and maybe some grease. In this there's a little channel here. You can see it's probably for oil and grease to keep that seal so that air doesn't get through there into where the hammer is. Better it seals, I would imagine, better this tool is going to work. I bet you we're going to restore all the torque that this thing has lost over the years just by sort of going through it like this. I don't know if I should put grease here, but I'm going to anyways. A little bit of thrust bearing. This bearing makes contact with the turning air hammer. Put this in straight. There we go. That's properly installed. Okay. Now we're going to put the air motor in, and you can see how this goes now. Operation of the air motor is pretty interesting, actually. Wonder if we should put the... Yeah, okay, I think we're going to have to put the vanes on with some grease to keep the vanes in here. These are interesting too, because as you can see here, the shape of these vanes make it so that they always situate themselves in the center of the air motor. They can't really, if they do move around, they will always reset themselves in the middle with the shape like this. You got that sort of rounded bottom to them, which always makes sure they're right in the middle. Interesting. So I think we might have a bit of a tricky time getting that back in without. We'll have to put a little bit of grease to hold the vanes on. So we'll do that. Not too much, because I don't think grease is supposed to be in the air motor. I think it's primarily just oil. Okay, we'll put the vanes in. I don't know if these have a particular way they go. Doesn't look like it. Grease is just to hold the vanes in while we're reinstalling it. Maybe I put too much, I don't know. I think, like I was saying, this part here is like an engine. Oil creates the seal. So I don't think it's good to have grease in there, but alright, there's our rotor air motor with the vanes back installed, and we will put that back in here. I've got this air motor installed. We will install the chamber. Yeah, I think it goes like this. I've got this little indexing pin here. There you go. So you can see now how that fits together. Really interesting. So it's kind of like off-centered. So these vanes, as this air motor's turning, these vanes spin out against the wall of this cylinder here. And I'm not. There's got to be some kind of a scientific explanation for why that chamber gets bigger and then smaller. But you know, high pressure air is coming in through these galleys here and being forced actually onto the air motor around this region. We know that just by looking at this back plate here, how the air is. Okay, now we've discovered something else. Yeah, if we look at this back plate, so yeah, the air is for forward or reverse comes through here. If we look at this gasket, yeah, that's how it works. Okay, so you have to move this here, but yeah, it comes through these two holes, and let's put this back on. We've got a bearing on this back plate for the air motor. It's gonna go here. So you can see how this works. So the air for forward or reverse comes through here, and then in through one of these holes, enters the air motor. Oh, look at this. Enters the air motor through these passages here. Forces the vanes outward so that they're touching against the wall. Actually not sure what these little holes here are for. Maybe exhaust. Not entirely sure, but that's interesting. Let's look at that again. So we've got this back plate, these sort of kidney shaped air galleys. So let's air through here. Ah, I see. Okay, look, this is how this works. Okay, so let's put this back on here. I see how this works. Okay, so we got forward and reverse determined by this piston here. This forces the air either through here or through here. If we look at this gasket, then this back plate here, which wasn't on tightly, and now you could see why the tool might have been losing pressure, because this has to be on tight, otherwise you lose, it gets leaky. So air comes through here, and depending on if it's forward or reverse, it enters through here or here. We also have a little air hole down here, which is, I think that's for oiling the bearing. We should oil that, because you're supposed to put oil periodically into this machine. If you look at this back plate, there's a galley that comes down here and then with the bearing. So I would imagine that's just to oil the bearing. But yeah, it comes in through here. Then let's have a look at this back plate here. So air comes through these two channels, and then if we look at this, there's a small little channel here, small little channel here, and then you've got these kidney-shaped air galleys here, which press up against the back of this rotor with the vanes in it. And if you look carefully, these vanes have they're sort of angled. So the air blows against this region, it blows the vanes out like that. It blows them out like this so that they're touching the walls of the tool and spinning the motor. And then also at the same time, if you look at this back plate, air is oh look, it's metered, so it would only take a certain amount of the air coming through this, but a vast majority of the air comes directly into the tool here, I see, and these little galleys, so it would come into this little channel here and push on the vanes, push on the motor, and then also go through these little channels to the front of the air motor and push on the other side as well. The other side looks very similar. The other side of the air motor looks very similar to this as well. So what's happening, the exact same thing is happening on the other side too. So that's very interesting to see how that works. An air motor. And then of course we've got these holes in the top here, which is the exhaust, which would come through this little channel here and out somehow. How did the exhaust get out? Yeah, that's the one mystery. Anyways, let's put this back on. It's the back of the air motor. It's sort of like, it's not sitting super. Oh, I just disconnected that whole thing. Oh, well, you know what? Now that we just screwed that up, might as well have a look on the inside now. So we got the exact same thing happening on the other side. We got this, goes on the back. It just doesn't seem like it's all the way seated, but maybe that's just my imagination. Okay, then we got the gasket, like so. And then seems to me like that should be really perfectly flat. Oh, that seems to be coming together pretty good. Seems a little... Okay. All back together. Let's see if this thing works. Alright, I was having a bit of trouble getting this thing going. I got it going. It was just the valve, I had installed it the wrong way around. That was easy. I managed to get her going, so I'll probably hang on to this tool. If anything, just for education purposes. Do this one hand. So she is working now. I don't know, forward and reverse works. It's obviously not going to be as good as my DeWalt impact driver. Never will be, but at least it works. I'll hold on to it. Maybe I'll need it down the road. Not really sure, but anyways, it's just an interesting video about how those things go together. Pretty interesting. I really like how the air is like directly connected to what you're turning. I think that's pretty neat. So, pretty interesting topic, air motors and air vane motors. So I hope you enjoyed that, and we'll see you soon.